What is going on, everyone, and welcome to the Sports Talk on Tap podcast. We're here. You can find daily uploads Monday through Friday covering all the major sports leagues, NHL, NBA, NFL, MLB, you name it. Whether it be games, highlights, all that fun stuff. I'm Jake, that's Nick. And in today's episode, we still have, besides baseball, at least one game left in the NHL, Game 6 tonight. The Edmonton Oilers, Florida Panthers. We go back to Edmonton where the Panthers lead the series 3-2. But if you were to tell an Edmonton fan after 3 games, they would have taken that. So it basically been a battle of 2 different series the second half, or 2 halves of the series. Florida won the first 3, even in game 1 when Edmonton looked like the better team. They lost 3-0, then they would lose, what was it, like 4-1 game 2. It was kind of the same story, just Bobrovsky absolutely shined them down. Game 3, Florida wins again. But then the switch flipped. Game 4, Edmonton dominates, 8-1 win, but no one, really kind of talked about it. Game 5 was much closer, but Edmonton was able to steal it just by their high-powered offense, jumping out to a 3-0 lead early and hanging on at the end with a McDavid empty netter. And we've gotten 2 great Connor McDavid games, 4 points in each of the last 2. Question is, Nick, can he do it again tonight back in Edmonton for the 3rd game in a row, or does Florida shut the door on what has been a frustrating couple days, I bet, to sit on this?
So tonight, my original thought was going to be McDavid has to do, he's going to have to do this. If they want to win this series somehow, he's going to have to do it game 6 and 7. But the more I think about it, the more I think a game like tonight would be a game where, Draisaitl shows up and has, 2 goals and an assist. Because I think after back-to-back 4-point games, Florida is going to just hone in on do not let McDavid beat us by himself. Make somebody else beat us, because McDavid's the best player in the world, and he can beat you by himself. So don't let him. Make one of his other teammates step up, a teammate who hasn't stepped up like Draisaitl, at least in this series. Obviously, he's still got, crazy playoff points and stuff like that, but he's kind of been quiet this series. So I think if they're going to, win again tonight somehow, because we see it a lot where teams – or we don't see it a lot, but if a team goes down 3-0 and then wins 2 straight and everyone starts talking about they're going to come all the way back, they usually kind of just falter out in a game like this, like Game 6.
Yeah.
Right? It's on their back now.
That's kind of the feeling I'm getting. I know you're actually kind of, on the different side. But a lot of people I've talked to, they're like, oh, it's for sure going 7. They're not even thinking – They're not even thinking about it. They're like, oh, it's back in Edmonton. They won 2 in a row. They're going 7. But that is where a team like Florida would just punch them in the mouth and win 5-1 to close it out. And we're like, shit, all right, good series, I guess.
I'm definitely.
So Edmonton has to be ready because it's a game-by-game thing. That's how Florida's treating it, and that's how Edmonton has after going down 3-0. So, no one should be that worried. It's going to be a great game. But I do agree, some of the pressure is on Florida, but that also comes with playing more desperate, even up 3-2. So either way, I'm really excited because, boy, the storylines, if Edmonton wins tonight, is going to be crazy. But if Florida wins, then, a team I was high on all playoffs, I was rightfully so right on. So, I mean, whatever.
I think any team who isn't rooting, any non-Florida fan or somebody who placed bets on them or something is rooting for the Oilers. Because anytime you see a team that's on the verge of making a historical comeback, I usually feel like people kind of jump on their backs. Everybody, I think, was rooting for the Hurricanes when they went down 3-0 and they almost brought it back to 7.
Forced a game 7. They choked that. I mean, that was bad.
I think everybody jumps on their backs though. So hopefully Edmonton doesn't kind of hopefully that's not too much.
Back to the pressure.
Right, exactly. Hopefully hopefully the Edmonton team, I don't know how much they pay attention to, outside noise and all that, but they kind of know they're on the brink of, you're gonna push it all the way back to 7 after being down 3-0. It's you got to still win this game to get to Game 7. And then Game 7, we always say it, anything can happen. You could have your third line center score 3 goals and win you the game. It doesn't matter. You just got to get there. And you're going to be in front of your home crowd tonight, which is a big advantage. And this is your last home game of the season, so you got to leave it all out there.
No, I agree. So that's going to be very interesting to see what happens tonight. I mean,
I do,
Florida.
I do have another question for you though about this. Say Florida wins tonight, like a close 4-3 game, something like that. But McDavid puts up another 3 points, and he's got I think he's closing in on 40 points in the playoffs. Do you give him the Conn Smythe, the playoff MVP, even if he loses?
No.
No.
It just hasn't been, because he's been really good in some games, but also, as great as he was these last two, the first 2-3 games got to be taken into account as well. And I just don't think it would be a different story if he was popping off 4 good points every game and they were losing. It's so rare to see like the MVP of the playoffs not go to the Stanley Cup champion.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time it happened.
I was going to ask you, do you know when the last time that happened was?
I can look it up, but I don't think it was anytime.
Yeah, as great as he is, though, it's going to be too much because, especially if rough last couple games, but if Bobrovsky, plays great again tonight, he still, I think, earns it because it's throughout the whole playoffs, and he was huge in a lot of these games. Or, you could go with, someone on Florida just, because even if they haven't shown up on the score sheet, they've always been physical, like Barkov, Reinhart, Kachuk. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could go. Or the way Rodriguez is playing the Stanley Cup Finals, could argue him.
Yeah,
so
he's making a push.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. And then there is also one thing non-Stanley Cup related we'll talk about. Want to give a shout out to a big trade that happened 36 hours ago now. Darcy Kemper, Washington Capitals goaltender, goes to Los Angeles. So, Nick, a lot of people thought Allmark was the Kings' target. I think that is kind of now washed away now that Darcy Kemper has gone there. And
Jacob Markstrom also got dealt, I believe, to New Jersey.
So that was another one. And Pierre-Luc Dubois was in the Capitals trade. So it was just a 1-for-1 swap. After signing Pierre-Luc Dubois to an 8-year deal, and he scored, I think, 24 points in the season. It was gross, like 16 goals or something. It was awful. I respect the Kings GM because when we talked about Kings' future to get back, it was very bleak. You have that Fiala deal, that Pierre-Luc Dubois deal. You're locked in on these guys, and they simply just haven't performed in the playoffs. So they get away from him. They got Darcy Kemper, who was kind of disappointing in Washington, but that's what happens when you pay a goalie a lot of money. Never really liked that idea. But,
he's proven it in the playoffs, too, led the Avalanche on that run.
Yeah. So he has a Stanley Cup. So, Kings get a goaltender. Not sure. I like him more than Cam Talbot, but not sure how much he elevates them. So now, what do they do this offseason? Do they get another winger to replace Pierre-Luc Dubois? That'll be something to see. And then, like you talked about, Jacob Markstrom, who had a bounce-back season this year compared to his 2023 season, which was just awful, or 2022-2023 season, because his 2021-2022, I believe he finished second in the goaltender. I forgot the name of it right now, but goaltender of the year voting. So that was kind of, or is it Vezina? Is that what it's called?
The goalie award is the Vezina,
Yeah. He finished second Vezina, I believe, in 2021, 2022, Calgary, Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk. That team was great. Now he heads to New Jersey where when he's on, he's on. When he's off, he's off. That's kind of been his whole career. Inconsistencies. So that'll be interesting. New Jersey's looking to take a gamble. They're looking to get back into the playoffs. And Calgary, at this point, is just kind of rebuilding at this point. They don't really they missed the playoffs the last 2 years. They kind of just been disappointing ever since that disaster summer where they trade away Matthew Tkachuk and lost Johnny Gaudreau in free agency. And boy, that team, how good they were for that one season, quickly fell off a cliff. Just 2 years now. Daryl Sutter no longer the head coach. It's a rough time there in Calgary.
Yep. They what could have been really because pretty much every guy that. Well, not every guy. I still
don't know why Johnny Gaudreau went to the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Because I don't even know if he cracked 50 points this year. He's not been good since signing that huge deal.
And part of it's the talent around him. When you're playing with Tkachuk, a great, solid Calgary team at the time, they were ready to take off, and he just left him behind. So,
I believe Patrick Laine is on that team too, and he was at Winnipeg, and he was really good in Winnipeg. And now
yeah, he was for a couple of years. Yeah, I remember he popped off against the Wild in the playoffs one year.
Yep.
With that being said, yeah. So some interesting hockey trades going down right now.
I found the last losing Conn Smythe winner, by the way, and the reason we didn't really know who it was is because it was kind of before we were watching hockey. It was in 2003, J.S. Gigri, if I'm pronouncing that right. He was goalie for the Ducks because he had a 1.62 goals against average in the playoffs and like a 940 save percentage.
Shout out to his offense, man, letting him down despite giving.
He did get a ring though, so it all worked out. He got a ring a few years later. So,
all right, good for him. Yeah. So I mean, odds are pretty low, but McDavid, you never know what happens. But we shall see. Game 6 tonight going to be huge. Going to be fun. Will Florida win it, or will Edmonton force a Game 7? Let us know in the comments your predictions. Obviously, I'm sticking with my guys. Nick probably won't make a prediction, but I'll stick with Florida to finally close it out. But we'll see.
I'm gonna pick Edmonton. I'll pick Edmonton.
Now Edmonton just lost. Thank you, everyone, and we'll come back to that clip this weekend.
I've been pretty good on my Edmonton picks. I was not this series, but I was picking them in the Star series, and they ended up.
They were in the Vancouver. Yeah, good times. All right, but gonna be a great game tonight. We can't wait to recap it with you guys, and we'll see if there will be a Game 7 or not. But with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.